Hi, welcome to the Facebook Live, the Houston Zoo Facebook Live. My name's Brian, and I'll be talking today. We've got a few animals to show you today. First one we have is Ernie, our North American porcupine. Now Ernie is a pretty cool guy. He's kind of an old guy. He's going on 11 or 12 this year. They can live to be upwards of 15 to 20. His dad is still out here, actually. His dad's out in the forest section. So while Ernie lives in the back and does his ambassador life, his dad is actually on exhibit. So you guys can come visit the Houston Zoo and you can see his dad out on exhibit. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll see Ernie out and about at the zoo. Now Ernie, like I said, is a porcupine. Porcupines are covered in quills. Now these quills are almost all over his body. There are a few spots that there aren't any quills though. The few spots are his face, his boopable nose, his hands and his feet, and his stomach. But everywhere else is covered in these really sharp quills. Now these quills are very interesting. A lot of people think that porcupine quills can actually shoot out of the animal, projectile quills, but they're actually just a kind of hair. So until we learn to shoot hair out of our head, he can't shoot hair out of his head. Now these quills are very interesting though. While they don't projectile out, they are very adapted to defense. So if a predator comes up and they quill the predator, the quills are going to come right out of Ernie because he doesn't want to accidentally get velcroed to whatever's trying to get him. Now I can show you his quills pretty good here, maybe. Hey bud. Now the only reason I'm able to touch him like this is because we've been training together for several years. Normally you wouldn't want to touch a porcupine because as I'm showing you, he's got some very, very sharp quills all underneath. Now you see these quills are actually white at the base and black on top. The black on top helps him to blend in if he's just moving about. Ernie, turn. You can see it all over the place. Yeah, good boy. Do you want the celery? I'm not really a big fan of celery either. Here you go. Not without peanut butter. Now the reason that the base of the quills is white is so that whenever he does get scared of something or startled, he'll actually pull up all of these quills on his body, and it's suddenly going from this nice brown color to a very stark white. And it's kind of a visual warning to let animals know, stay back, I'm dangerous. Now you see that Ernie's chewing away. If you get a good glimpse at his teeth at some point, you'll see that his teeth are actually orange. And those orange teeth are full of iron. And the orange teeth and the iron actually helps him because his teeth are very, very strong as a result. This means that he can chew a lot of really hard things. And in fact, because he's a rodent, he actually has to chew a lot of really hard things because if he doesn't, his teeth are going to continue to grow. So every time he eats, we like to give him raw sweet potato, raw carrot, these things that will help to grind down his teeth naturally as he eats. We also give him browse, which is like branches and stuff. And we give him, he's got wood in his enclosure as well. He'll chew on that. A lot of the porcupines in the wild are actually good wood chewers. Now, they're not like beavers. They're not trying to take down any trees. They just like to do it as a pastime. These guys will also chew on bones if they're able to find them. Not only does it help to grind down their teeth, but they might get a little bit of calcium back as well. Now, Ernie's been living here for quite a long time. He was actually born here at the zoo. He was born out on exhibit. We found him out there, and we took him into the ambassador program, and he's been doing shows, birthdays, keeper chats, special events, zoo balls, and everything else ever since. And he's a pretty smart guy. He knows a lot of different things. Shake. Good. Now you can observe him chewing that food and eating. You can see that he likes to hold his food in his hands. That's something that he's really good at, is holding the food. Those claws help him to hold the food. They also help him to climb trees if he's out in the wild, or climb the branches that we have here for him. And he's not making a lot of sound right now, but porcupines can make a few different sounds. His favorite one to make is kind of like a weird, like, ooh, 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 ooh. And that's his excited sound when he knows that food is coming or that we're coming to help train him. Up. You can do it. Good. Someone gave you a lot of celery today, and no peanut butter. Now, me and one of my other trainers are working on a few different new behaviors for him. We're working on a voluntary nail trim, so just like their teeth and just like our nails, their nails grow continuously throughout their life. Now, in the wild, these nails would get ground down through natural processes of climbing and stuff, or they would break off while the animal's doing stuff. No animal is going to look nearly as perfect as Ernie does here at the zoo, because Ernie gets mani-pedis at least once a month. He's not the only one, but so we're actually doing it. We've managed to make it to the point where he'll actually offer us his foot or his hand, and we'll hold on to it, and then we'll be able to trim each of his toenails, not the toes. And then he actually sits up and lets us trim his back feet as well. We're also working on a body condition scoring thing. Now, this is a very interesting thing that's come about in the last few years. This is a way that we can tell not only that he's at a healthy weight, but that he's at a healthy form. Ernie, turn. Maybe, turn. Maybe. Good boy. Stand. Good. And that was a little bit, he likes to reach out and grab the hand. That was a little bit about how we started training that behavior. So for the body condition score, we like to have him, we actually have a little, what looks like a hurdle. And this hurdle actually is what he holds onto. He stands up really high and he holds onto it. And then we're able to touch him gently, carefully with gloves, and we can tell that he's in a good physical form. Now, Tracy asks, do they live alone or in pairs? These guys are mostly solitary animals. They usually live alone. They'll come together whenever they want a boyfriend or girlfriend, but then after they're done, they will split apart again. You want to do a thing? You want to do a handhold thing? Ernie? Good. And it's just adorable. Now you see he's eating a lot of different things. He likes veggies and fruits. Like I said, he'd chew on bones and wood and a few other things. He really likes, it kind of goes in waves. He likes his greens right now, as long as it's not spinach, which is where me and him disagree, because I love spinach. He likes pears. You can see he's going to town on that. He's got apple. He likes carrots, sweet potatoes. These are kind of the mainstays that he always likes. Can I have this back? Thank you. Do they release their quills? That's an excellent question as well. Now, for those of you just tuning in, this is Ernie. He's a North American porcupine. Now, porcupines are known to shoot their quills. This is a popular myth that we have. Now, they don't actually shoot their quills out because it's just a modified hair. So until they learn to shoot, backwards, reverse, until we learn to shoot hairs out of our head, he won't be able to shoot hairs out of his head. But it's interesting that you ask if they release their quills, because they do actually do something similar to that, where as soon as there's any pressure pushing on the quills will come out of the porcupine. And that actually helps him to make sure that if something does try to get him, he's not then attached to whatever is trying to get him still. The quills pull out, and then he'll grow new ones, because like I said, it's just hair. And you can see, now that we're in the summer months, Ernie's got this kind of male pattern baldness going on. That's kind of his age showing. But in the winter, you wouldn't be able to see any of these quills on the top of his body. It would be all covered in that nice brown fur. He's got these guard hairs, which is this nice fluffy fur, the white and the brown. And then he's got the quills underneath. Now the quills on his body are probably about 1 inch to 2 inches long. Come here, bud. But the quills on his tail are the ones that you'd really want to look out for. They're actually a little bit longer, more towards 3 inches or so. And these quills are hollow, and whenever they come out and go into a dog or a person, they actually get stuck in because they have little barbs at the end, like microscopic barbs. And there's really not a good way to get them out. So if your dog ever runs across one, you'll want to make sure that you take them to the vet so they can help them out. As someone who's had a few Ernie quills in him, I will say it is not the most pleasant experience. All right, Well, I hope you enjoyed Ernie. We're about to move on to our next animal. His name is Garbanzo, or Gary for short, and we'll have him out in just a few moments. Hey Gary, you want to come out? There he is. Now Gary is a six-banded armadillo. Six-banded armadillos are pretty awesome animals. They are from Central and South America, and he's actually going to be out and about doing a lot of Pantanal messaging. Now if you guys haven't been to the zoo recently, we have a whole brand new exhibit called the Pantanal. It is a very interesting South American wetlands area. We've got a whole bunch of different animals on show. We've got giant river otters, jaguars, capybara, tapirs, a bunch of other things. Gary really is very safety conscious. He's making sure the fire extinguishers are all up to code. Now Gary does live down there with a few different armadillo species. He actually lives with a three-banded armadillo. He also lives with the largest armadillos that we have in the world. And the largest armadillos are called giant armadillos. Makes sense. Now, like I said, he is a six-banded armadillo. But if you look closely, you'll see why that name doesn't really apply to him super well. Does anyone see why this six-banded armadillo is a little special? He is moving a bit, but if you look closely, you'll see that Gary actually has 7 bands. But that is actually kind of par for his species. Most of them have 6, but they can have up to 8. So he's our nice 7-banded, 6-banded armadillo. And as you can see, he's hunting down all the food. He likes the veggies and the fruits, and he really likes bugs. He eats crickets and mealworms, and I bet he'd eat anything else that we tried to give him as well. Now Gary is covered in this nice armor that he has on his back. This armor is something special. This is actually just like with Ernie. This is just a modified hair. It's the same stuff that our fingernails and hair are made out of, keratin, and it's just hardened into a covering that protects him from other animals that might try to get at him. There he goes. Now you see, this is kind of how he would hunt in the wild too. He's going to go dig into burrows. He's going to dig into spaces underground. He's going to shove his whole face in there and try to get the food out. Hopefully he's successful in getting out of the lean cuisine box as much as he was successful getting into the lean cuisine box. Now if you're wondering why he has such an interesting enrichment, it's because we actually do like to reduce, reuse, and recycle here at the zoo. So whenever our keepers have lunch, they'll actually, if we have clean boxes, we'll take them and we'll put them into a big bin so we can use them later in order to enrich the animals as well. It's a nice, safe way to give your animals a treat. So the next time you're at home, feel free to put some cat treats or some dog treats into a nice DiGiorno box and let them have some fun while they're eating. Now, like I said, Gary is part of the Pantanal. He is the 6-banded armadillo. We also have the giant armadillos. Where can we find these animals at the zoo? That's an excellent question. Right now, there aren't any armadillos on display, but as keeper chats start gearing up again, you'll probably be able to spot Gary out in the Pantanal stage, which is right past the giant river otter section. And I'm sure you'll see him for years to come. He's going to be a fan favorite, I already know, because he's just so adorable. Now, like I said, he is the 3rd largest armadillo. The giant armadillos are the biggest. The giant armadillos are actually a conservation project that we have going on down in the Pantanal right now. They're studying this thing called hotel armadillo, and it's all about how giant armadillos will dig these really massive burrows, and they'll stay in them for a few days to a few weeks, and then they'll leave and they'll move on to another massive burrow. And after they leave, these burrows then become hotels for a lot of different animals. Gary could use that hotel. We've got Millie, the 3-banded armadillo. She could use it. We've seen ocelots use them, tortoises, turtles, snakes. No birds yet, I don't think. But everybody else really likes to use these special areas. Up. And you can see he's using his nose in order to look around. Gary is all about that sensory hunting. It's all with the nose. His eyes aren't super great, so he's going to try to find stuff with the sense of smell rather than his eyesight. Thanks for tuning in. Join us next week at 11 a.m. for our Facebook Live. And remember, when you see